Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video, we're going to look at if-else statements, ASCII character encoding, as well as while loops. Now, what is the use of if-else statements? Well, these help control the flow of a program based on some condition which is specified in the if statement. So the general syntax of an if-else statement is if, then you specify the condition. So if this condition holds or is true, then it's going to execute whatever you put in this block of code. So by block of code, it means that whatever is in the curly bracelets. So whenever you see closed, open and closed curly bracelets, then just know that's a block of code. And so if this condition holds, then it's going to execute whatever you specify in there. Then else, if that doesn't hold, it's going to execute whatever you specify in the other block of code. Now, what is the use of a while loop? Well, a while loop allows one to execute a block of code repeatedly for as long as a certain condition is true. So the general syntax of a while loop is while condition. So after the condition, then there's a block of code. So for as long as this condition holds or is true, then it's going to execute whatever you specify in that block of code. Now, what does ASCII stand for? What does this stand for? Well, ASCII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Now, these ASCII codes are assigned to about 128 characters, including letters, digits, as well as punctuation marks. But then there's another character encoding code, Unicode, which extends ASCII. In short, it has got more characters as compared to the characters that ASCII has. But then in this video, we're going to be using ASCII. So if you're using the command line like me, you can simply say man and ASCII, and it's going to show you the different characters that are there. So for example, if you're using decimal, which I'm going to be using in the coming programs that I'm going to be making. So if you're using decimal, then you use the number 65, then you are referring to the character capital letter A. If you use 66, then it's the character capital letter B, and so on. Of course, if you're not using the command line, you can search for ASCII table on the internet, and it's going to bring the ASCII tables for you. So now let us look at some examples that are going to help us see how we can use these if-else statements, ASCII characters, ASCII character encoding, as well as while loops. So I've made a template that I'm going to be using. So this is a template. So all of our so all of our programs are going to have this template. So I'm just going to say cut template, then I'm going to redirect it to main.c. And so now I can say main.c, and it'll have the same things that are in the template. So the first program that we're going to make is going to be printing something to standard out based on the nature of the last digit of the number that a user has input. So I'm just going to say print the last digit of a number. So it's going to print the last digit, but then of course it's going to be dependent on what the last digit is. So let us just see how this code is going to be working. So I'm first of all going to initialize two variables. The first variable, I'm going to call it num. Then the next variable, I'm going to say last digit. This is the variable that's going to be holding the last digit. So we have last digit. So of course, always remember to leave a space after declaring variables. So in num, then last digit, then I'm going to use printf to prompt the user to input the number. So I'm going to say enter a number to get its last digit. So after doing this, I'm going to use scanf to get the number. So I'm just going to say scanf. And because I initialized it as int, so it means that I'm going to use %d. Of course, if you initialized it as maybe long, then it was going to be LU. If you initialize it as float, which are decimal number, which are numbers, fractional numbers, we would have used %f, but then because it's int, I've used %d. So I'm going to say %t, then I'm going to pass the the address of num as an argument. So scanf that. So this is going to get the value from the console. So a user is going to input, and num is going to hold that number that the user is going to input. So now how do we get the last digit of this number? So last digit will be equal to num, then modulo 10. So modulo simply gets the remainder. So when you say num modulo 10, it's going to get the remainder when this number is divided by 10. So this number is going to be less than 10, so it can be 9, 8, and so this number is going to be the last digit of that number. And we are going to see how this is going to work out when we use different numbers. So last digit is equal to num modulo 10. Now, how can we get to use if-else statements? How do we get to use them in this case? So I'm going to print something depending on whether the number is less than 5, equal to 5, or greater than 5. So I'm going to say if last digit, so if last digit is greater than, let me first of all start with less than. So if last digit is less than 5, then I'm going to execute this block of code. So I'm going to say printf. So I'm going to say the last digit of the number that the user has input. I'm going to use the format specifier %t because num is an int. So the last digit of this num that the user has input is, then I'm now going to put the number there. So %t, okay, maybe let me just remove those. So is that number, which is the last digit, and is less than 5. Then I'm going to put, so the first format specifier there is holding the place for num. So I'm going to put num first. Then the second one is holding last digit. So I'm just going to put last digit there. So last digit. And so after this, of course, I want to print a new line. So I'm just going to put that. Then I'm now going to put another if statement. So else if last digit is equal to 5, we're going to execute a different block of code. So this is a block of code that we're going to execute if the number is equal to 5. I'm going to say the last digit of percentage t is percentage t, which is last digit, and is equal to 5. I'm going to say and is equal to 5. So I'm going to say that. So the last digit of that is this and is equal to 5. Then I'm just going to say else. So if neither of these hold or are true, so if neither of these conditions hold, if the number is not less than 5, if the number is not equal to 5, then anything else that's going to come there, or any other last digit that's going to be there, I'm going to say printf. So printf, the last digit of percentage t is that and is greater than 5. Because if the number is not less than 5, the number is not equal to 5, then obviously the only condition that remains is that the number is greater than 5. So I'm going to say and is greater than 5. So these are the different blocks of code that are going to be executed depending on what the condition is. So this is a general case of how you can use the if-else statement. So if this condition holds, then we are going to print this. Else, if the last digit is going to be equal to 5, then we're going to print this. Else, we are going to print that's there. So let me now compile this. So I'm going to say gcc main.c. And so because I haven't specified an output file, it's going to make a default output file for me, which is a.out. So if I do ls, a.out is now there. So I can now say a.out. And so it is now bringing entire number to get its last digit. So let us first of all start with a number that's got a last digit that's less than 5. So let's say maybe it's 14. So it's going to say the last digit of 14 is 4 and is less than 5. Now let us come to a number that has a last digit which is equal to 5. So let me just run the program again. So let me put a number like 355, which has got a last digit 5. And so it has now brought the last digit of 355 is 5 and is equal to 5. Now let us put a number that has got a last digit that's greater than 5. So let me just run the program again. So I'm going to say maybe 3, 4, whatever, then 7 there. And so now it will bring the last digit of that number is 7 and is greater than 5. So this is how you can get to use if-else statements. Now, let us now look at an example in which we are going to be using ASCII character encoding as well as if-else statements afterwards, as well as while loops. So now, I'm going to use the same template. So template, I'm going to redirect the output into main.c, so that if I go back to main.c, we are going to find the same template that we have made. So in this program, what we are going to do is print the alphabet using ASCII. So we're going to use ASCII characters to print the alphabet. So now, because we're going to start by printing the alphabet in lowercase. So for lowercase, we've seen that for the character A, the decimal number is 97. So 97 will print A as the character. So if it's 98, it's going to print B. So I'm going to initialize a variable, and I'm going to initialize it to 97. So once I declare a variable, I'm going to initialize it to 97. So I'm going to say int var, then I'm going to equate this to 97. So always remember to leave a space after declaring a variable. So int var, then you leave a space. Then down there, I'm going to make a while loop. I'm going to say while var is less than or equal to, so the last number for this alphabet is 122, which refers to the character Z, the small character Z. So I'm going to say, well, this is less than or equal to 122, and I'm going to execute a different block, this block of code. So while var is less than or equal to 122, then I'm going to use put character. So I'm going to say put char, then I'm going to put that character which is var. So what's going to be happening here is, so now I need to increment var. Of course, I can use var++, but then for our friends who probably are used to using Python, this might bring errors for you in Python. And so if you want to just like be used to using one thing, then you can simply say var plus equal to 1, and it's going to say do the same thing. So this is going to be incrementing var by 1. So what's going to be happening is that var at first is 97. So when it comes here into the while loop, it's going to check if the condition holds. So it's going to say, is 97 less than or equal to 122? So the answer is true. So because this is true, it's going to execute this block of code. And so it's going to say put character var, which is 97. And 97, as we saw that side, is the character A. So this is going to print the character A. Then it's going to increment var by 1. And so instead of 97, var will now be 98. So it will come into this, it will check if this condition is true. So it's going to say, is 98 less than or equal to 122, which is true. And so it's going to execute this block of code again. Now, what happens when var reaches 123? So when it reaches 123, this condition is not going to hold. And so this block of code won't be executed. Now, someone might ask, like, why are you using putchar instead of printf? Well, putchar is much simpler as compared to printf, and so this will make our code run even faster. So after this, to make our program print something that's nice and presentable, after printing all these characters, of course, we need a new line. So I'm going to say putchar. Then there's need of a new line there. So I'm just going to put the new line character there. And so let us now run our program and see what's going to happen. So I'm going to say gcc main.c. So once I run that, then a.out, and so it has now printed the alphabet in lowercase. So this is how you can print the alphabet using ASCII. Now, what if we wanted to print the alphabet first of all in lowercase, then in uppercase? So if we wanted to do that, then we would need two while loops. But then we need to reassign a different number to var. So I'm going to say var is equal to a different number, which is the first number, the first decimal number that refers to the character capital letter A. So if we go back to our ASCII table, which is this one here, if we check for A or the capital letters, so checking the capital letters, A starts with 65. So I'm going to assign 65 to var. So our variable var is now going to have 65. So var is now equal to 65. Then after var is equal to 65, I'm going to make another while loop. So I'm going to say while var is less than or equal to, so the last decimal number, or the number that holds Z, the capital letter Z, is 90. You can check from the ASCII table. So while var is less than or equal to 90, which refers to Z, I want to do this. So I'm just going to say put character. So put character, whatever var is. Then I'm going to say var plus equal to 1. And so now we have these two while loops. So this one is going to print the small letters, then this one is going to print the capital letters, and then this one here is going to print a new line. So we have this, then let's compile program. So GCC main.c, which will make the default output file a.out. So when we run this, it's now going to say A, B, C, D all the way up to Z. Then it will now start with the capital letters all the way up to Z. Now, what if you want to print all the letters, but then you want to exclude some of the letters? So let's say I want to print all of the letters except from the letters maybe B and G. Maybe I don't want those letters to be among the letters that are going to be printed onto the command prompt. So I'm just going to remove the one for printing capital letters. So I'm going to stick to small letters. So I'm going to say while var is less than or equal to 122, then put character var, then var plus equal to 1. Of course, for this one, we can also use continue, but then we're going to come to those keywords after some time, like continue, break, and all those other things like switch statements and things like that are going to come in the coming videos. So for now, we are just going to use if-else statements to print different characters, excluding some. So let's look at the letters that we're going to exclude. So let's say I don't want the letters B, and maybe I don't want B. And as we can see, B is, so let me just calm down. So B is 98, then E is 101. So let's say maybe I don't want B, which is 98, and E, which is 101. So now let's see how we can do that in our code. So I'm going to say if, excuse me. So I'm going to say if var is not equal to 90 is not equal to 98, which is B, then I'm going to say and var is not equal to 101, I think, which is E. So E, which is 101. So if var is not equal to 98 and var is not equal to 101, then I want to execute this block of code. So I want to execute this block of code. So if var is not equal to 98 and var is not equal to 101, then put character var and then we'll increment var plus equal to 1. Now, what would have happened if var plus equal to 1 was put inside the if statement? Well, what would have happened is that once var is equal to 98, var wouldn't come and execute this block of code where var plus equal to 1 is, and so var would stop incrementing And so you will notice that your program won't print anything onto the output. It's like it's running, but then it's not going to print anything. So that's why var is outside the if statement, so that regardless of what the value of var is still going to be incremented by 1. So now let us see what's going to happen if this program of ours is going to print, if it's going to print the letters B and E. So I'm just going to cancel that and save. So this is main.c, and then I'm just going to run it using a.out. And so now we have ACD. As you can see, B is not there. So ACD, E is also not there. And so it has just gone straight to F, G, H, I, J, K, just like that until Z. Now, how can we print digits? Digits from 0 to 9. Well, digits are also there. They also have their own decimal numbers that refer to them. They probably start from 40 something. Yeah, so they're here. So they start from 48 all the way to 57. So now how can you get to print these digits? So if you want, you can pause the video and see if how you can print those digits. So I'm just going to remove this. So just remove that. So now instead of initializing var as 97, I'm going to initialize it as 48 because 48 is the first digit 0. So I'm going to initialize it to 48, then it's going to be less than or equal to. So the last digit is 57, which is 9. So this is going to be less than or equal to 57, then put character var, then var plus equal to 1. And so this is going to print our digit. So if I run this program, it's going to print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, what if we want our digits to look nice? You know, like we want a situation where after 0, there's a comma, a space, then 1, then after 1, there's a comma, space, and 2. So again, you need to use conditional statement, if-else statement. So I'm going to say, so I'm just going to put if statements there. So we'll say if, so I'll say if, so if var is, let me put the if statement after printing the variable itself. So whenever I print this variable, I'm going to say if var is not equal to 57. So if var is not equal to 57, then I'm going to say put character. So I'm going to put the character comma. So I'll first of all put that character, then I'm going to put another character. Of course, this is just going to be space. So this is what's going to be happening. So as long as var is not equal to 57, of course we know what 57 is, and 57 represents 9. So for as long as var, this variable is not equal to 9, I want to print a comma followed by a space, and then it's going to come and print the next variable or the next number. So now let us see what this code is going to do. So that, let me just save this and compile. So using gcc main.c, then I'm just going to run that. And so now our output looks something like this. So it's 0, comma, space, 1, comma, space, 2, just like that. And so this is how you can use a conditional statement to beautify your code, to make your output look even much better. Now, how can you print numbers in base 16? Let's say maybe you want to print the numbers in base 16. Of course, we know that numbers in base 16 start from 0 all the way up to F. So it's 0, then we're going to print these numbers in lowercase. So starting from 10, which is represented by A, we're going to be printing them in lowercase. So the first thing is, first of all, print the numbers. So the numbers, so the first number 0 is 48. So while var is less than or equal to 57, of course 57 is 9. So it's going to print 0 all the way up to 9 using this loop here. Then after it's done with this one, we want to print the letters A up to F. So it means that we need to give var another a different number. So the small letters start from 97. So because they start from 97, I'm going to say var is equal to 97. Then I'm now going to make another while loop. I'm going to say while var is less than or equal to. So the letter f is at as the decimal number 102, which is there. So f is 102. So because it's 102, I'm going to say while var is less than or equal to 102. I want to execute this block of code, and I'm simply going to say put character. So put character var. Then after this one, I'm going to increment var. So var plus equal to 1. Then I'm now going to print the new line character. And so this is going to print the number 0 to 9. And then it's also going to print the letters A to F in lowercase. So now that we have this, let's now run our program. So this is in main.c. Then let us now compile our program and run it. So it now has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. And so this is how you can use if-else statements, while loops, as well as ASCII character encoding. So if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, to hit the like button, as well as subscribe if you are new to the channel, especially commenting so that I know what you guys think about the video. And if you've got any questions based on if-else statements, while loops, as well as ASCII character encoding or even Unicode, you can still leave those questions that you have in the comment section. Thanks for watching.